walls, ceilings, doors. If I asked you to, close your eyes and picture an interior, that is almost certainly where your brain goes first.
It's the default setting, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're conditioned to think that inside is defined by what it's not. It's not outside, it's a binary.
Exactly. But today we're going to try and break that binary. We're looking at a stack of research on a concept that sounds like a total oxymoron: open-air interior design.
Specifically for outdoor kitchens.
Right. And the core question isn't about which brill to buy. It's this: what actually happens to interior design when you just delete the enclosure?
It creates this fascinating paradox. Because when you remove the walls, you're not just stepping outside, you're removing the very thing that defines a room.
So how do you create that feeling of home, that comfort, that intimacy without the architectural shell?
Right.
And I want to be clear for everyone listening. We aren't just talking about, dragging a plastic table onto a patio and calling it a day.
You've all been to that barbecue. We have. The grill is in one corner, the table's 50 feet away, and you just feel like you're standing in a field holding a hot dog.
That is the exact opposite of what this research is getting at. That feeling of exposure, of just floating in space. That's what happens when you ignore design.
So what's the goal then?
The goal is spatial comfort. It's about creating a psychological container even when the physical one, the walls, doesn't exist.
Spatial comfort. I like that. But all right, let's play devil's advocate here for a second.
Okay.
If I'm outside, isn't the whole point to be outside? Why do I need to apply interior principles to the great outdoors? Shouldn't I just let nature do its thing?
That's the trap. Nature is great at being vast and impressive. It's not great at being cozy. I mean, think about the concept of agoraphobia. The fear of open spaces. Humans, evolutionarily, we don't love being completely exposed. We crave something called prospect and refuge.
Prospect and refuge. Okay.
We want to see the view, but we want to feel anchored. We want to feel safe.
So we want to feel held, but not trapped. Precisely. And the research argues that because you don't have walls to do that job for you, the interior design, well, it actually becomes more critical, not less.
See, that feels backwards. I would think no walls means less work.
Think about it this way. If you walk into an empty room in a house, the four walls immediately tell you where the center is. They tell you where the corners are.
The architecture dictates the space.
Exactly. But outdoors, you have no boundaries. So if you don't use design to create them, you just have chaos, disorders.
So you have to build invisible walls?
In a sense, yes. You have to use every other tool in the toolbox, light, material, furniture, plants, to create that container we talked about. Every single element has to have intention.
You can't just place things, you have to compose them.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Intention is a heavy word, though. Let's unpack what that actually looks like. The research points to a few specific tools, and the first one, honestly, it threw me for a loop.
Let me guess. Light.
Light. Because I usually think of it as a utility, not a design element.
Natural daylight, specifically.
See, this is where I get a little skeptical. Indoors, I'm the god of light, right?
Yeah.
I install dimmers, I buy lamps, I can set the mood.
You're in control.
But outdoors, the sun does whatever it wants. How can light be a tool if I can't control it?
You can't control the source, but you can control the reception.
Yeah.
That's the shift.
Okay.
The research calls natural daylight one of the strongest tools because it's a dynamic collaborator.
Yeah.
Your living room, for example, looks roughly the same at 2 p.m. as it does at 8 p.m., right?
Yeah, sure. My gray couch is always gray.
Always gray. But outdoors, the light is constantly moving. It's changing angle, intensity, color. So the challenge and the opportunity is to choose materials and orientations that actually play with that light.
Okay, give me an example. How does the designer actually use the sun?
Okay, think about texture. If you have a flat painted drywall inside, light just hits it. But outdoors, imagine a split-face stone wall, or maybe a slatted timber screen. At noon, when the sun is high, that texture might look really subtle. But at 5 p.m., during that golden hour, the low angle of the sun hits those ridges and creates these deep, dramatic shadows.
So the wall is physically changing its appearance throughout the day?
It gives a space a living quality. The research even calls light a compositional element. It guides your eye. You might orient the kitchen island so the morning sun hits the prep surface.
Wakes you up a bit.
Exactly.
Right.
While the dining area is positioned to catch that warm sunset, you're designing time into this space.
That is actually really cool. It's like the room changes shape based on where the shadows fall.
And it connects you to the rhythm of the day in a way a sealed-up air-conditioned box never can. But and this is big.
Yeah.
But light only works if it has something interesting to hit.
Which brings us to materials.
Right.
And this is another area where I feel like people, myself included, can really go wrong. We try to bring the inside out too literally. We think, oh, I love my sleek, polished marble countertop inside.
So I'll just put that outside, and it usually looks terrible.
Why, though? It's a nice material.
It is, but it's about visual weight and context. The research emphasizes that materials need to feel grounded, tactile, and harmonious.
Grounded. That's an interesting word for a countertop.
Well, think about the sheer scale of the outdoors. You've got the sky, huge trees, maybe a view. If you put a thin, shiny, highly manufactured material next to a 50-year-old oak tree, it looks flimsy, it looks temporary.
It looks like a spaceship landed in the garden.
Exactly. It creates this dissonance. The research suggests using materials that have tactility. Stone, concrete, weathered wood. Things that feel like they have enough mass to hold their own against the environment.
So it's about responding to what's already there.
It's about continuity. You want the built surfaces, the counters, the flooring to feel like they grew out of the landscape, not like they were just dropped on top of it.
Got it. Okay, so we have light playing off these heavy textured materials, but we still need a place to sit. Let's talk furniture.
Yes. Where the number one mistake is made.
What's that?
Scale. People buy furniture that is way too small.
The dollhouse effect.
Yes. You take a standard-sized dining set that looks perfectly fine in a 12-12 dining room, and you put it on a 40-foot patio under an infinite sky.
And suddenly it just looks tiny and cluttered.
It does. You need to prioritize proportion. The furniture has to act as an anchor. The research uses that specific word, anchor.
So since you don't have walls to hold the space?
The furniture has to create the gravity. A large, low-slung sectional sofa creates a zone. It basically says, this is the living room.
It implies the boundaries. If I see a rug and a sofa and a coffee table arranged together, my brain reads room, even if there are no walls.
Precisely. But you have to be really careful with circulation. This is a key point in the analysis. Indoors, we're used to dodging things, right? You squeeze behind the chair, you walk around the ottoman.
I am constantly hip-checking my dining table.
We accept it because space is limited. But outdoors, the psychological expectation is freedom. If I have to shimmy around a chair on a patio, it feels incredibly jarring. It breaks the spell. The flow has to feel intuitive.
So the layout needs to be looser.
It needs to be legible. That's a term architects use. When you look at the space, you should instantly understand how to move through it. Here is where I cook, here's where I walk, here's where I sit. If people are confused, the design has failed.
Which brings up the flow between cooking and socializing. Indoors, everyone always ends up in the kitchen.
Always.
And it's so annoying. You're trying to cook and 3 people are leaning on the fridge. Does the outdoor kitchen solve that?
Ideally, yes, but only if you design for it. The research talks about organizing zones. You need a preparation zone and a gathering zone, and the transition between them has to be effortless but distinct.
So the island becomes a sort of barrier.
A barrier and a bridge. The island is the classic example. It keeps guests out of your work triangle, so you don't burn them with a hot skewer.
Important.
But it allows them to be close enough to hand you a drink. It controls the social dynamic without needing a door.
I love that. Using furniture to control social dynamics. Stay on your side, Dave.
Ideally, a bit more subtly than that. Yeah.
All right, now we get into my favorite part of the research. We've talked about stone, wood, light, furniture, but there's one element you literally cannot have inside, at least not in the same way. The research calls it the living interior.
The greenery. And this is a massive topic.
See, usually I think of plants as the final touch. You build the kitchen, you put the furniture in, and then you buy a potted fern and stick it in the corner.
Decoration.
Right.
And that's completely the wrong way to think about it in this context. The research argues that in an outdoor interior, greenery isn't decoration, it's architecture.
Architecture. That's a bold claim for a shrub.
Think about it though. A row of tall, dense hedges. That's a wall.
Okay.
A canopy of tree branches overhead, that's a ceiling. A change from stone pavers to grass. That's a change in flooring that signals a new zone.
I see that, but why is a hedge better than a brick wall? If we want enclosure, why not just build a wall?
Because a wall is hard. It stops the air, it stops the view, it stops the light. A living wall, like a hedge or a trellis with vines, creates a porous boundary.
Porous, meaning it breathes.
It lets the breeze through. It filters the light rather than blocking it.
Right.
It defines the space. It says the room ends here, but it doesn't feel confining. It softens the entire environment.
That idea of softening seems really important because kitchens are hard places. Stainless steel, rock, fire.
Knives. It's very industrial. And if you just put a stainless steel grill station on a concrete pad, it feels like a bunker. It feels sterile.
Right.
Biophilic design, which is what we're talking about here, suggests that humans feel most comfortable when those soft, natural elements balance out the hard-built environment.
So the plants bridge the gap between the manufactured kitchen and the wild backyard.
They do. They create that visual depth. And there's another layer here, privacy. The research touches on the feeling of intimacy. You don't want to feel like you're on a stage for the neighbors when you're eating dinner.